I was 23 when I took a night shift job as a receptionist at a small roadside motel just outside the city. It wasn't the kind of place tourists stayed at. Mostly truckers, people passing through, or locals who didn't want to be seen. The shift ran from 11 p.m. to 7 a.m., and most nights were painfully quiet. After midnight, the lobby lights stayed dim, the TV played on low volume, and I spent most of my time scrolling on my phone, waiting for morning. About 2 weeks into the job, I noticed the same man checking in every few nights. He never stayed more than a few hours. Always paid cash. Always asked for a room on the first floor facing the parking lot. He never caused trouble, but something about him felt wrong. He wouldn't make eye contact, and he always stood just a little too close to the counter. I told myself I was overthinking it. One night around 2 a.m. he came in again. Same routine. Same quiet voice. Same room request. As I handed him the key, he paused and asked if I ever got scared working alone. I laughed it off and said no. He smiled, nodded, and said, "Good. You shouldn't." Then he walked out. After that, things started happening. The lobby door would unlock by itself. The motion sensor behind the desk would go off even though no one was there. Once, I found muddy footprints leading from the parking lot to the hallway that led to storage, but there was no sign of anyone inside. Management brushed it off. Old building. Faulty wiring. A few nights later, I was in the back office when the front desk bell rang. I came out expecting a guest, but the lobby was empty. On the counter sat a motel key for the same room that man always rented. Written on the key sleeve were the words, "You forgot to lock it." My stomach dropped. I checked the cameras. The footage showed him standing at the desk minutes earlier, staring directly into the camera before setting the key down. I called my manager, but he didn't answer. Around 5 a.m. the power flickered. Just once. When it came back on, the monitor showed one final camera alert. The hallway outside the office. The door handle slowly turning. A year later, I was working overnight security at a distribution warehouse on the edge of town. The job was simple. Walk the perimeter, check doors, monitor cameras, and make hourly patrols. I was the only guard on site, and aside from the hum of machinery and the occasional truck passing on the highway, it was dead quiet. For the first few months, nothing happened. Then one night, around 1:40 a.m., a motion alert triggered in Zone C. I pulled up the camera feed expecting an animal. The screen showed nothing but empty concrete and stacked pallets. I reset the alert and went back to my desk. 10 minutes later it triggered again. Same zone. Same empty frame. I walked the area with my flashlight. No signs of forced entry. No footprints. Nothing out of place. Still I logged it. Over the next week the alerts became routine. Always Zone C. Always between 1 and 2 a.m. Always nothing on camera. I started to dread that hour. One night, I stayed glued to the screen when the alert went off. This time I saw it. At the very edge of the frame, just before the alert ended, a shadow moved. Too tall to be an animal. Too slow to be a glitch. My radio crackled. Static. Then a voice whispered my name. I froze. No one else had a radio on site. I called my supervisor. No answer. I grabbed my flashlight and walked toward Zone C. The warehouse felt different, like the air was heavier. Halfway there, I heard footsteps matching mine. When I stopped, they stopped. When I moved, they followed. I reached the camera pole and shined my light around. Nothing. But when I looked back at the monitor feed on my phone, the camera angle had shifted slightly downward. Someone had touched it. That's when the footsteps started running toward me. I sprinted back to the office, locked the door, and called the police. By the time they arrived, the warehouse was empty. No signs of entry. No evidence. Before leaving at sunrise, I checked the logs one last time. The final motion alert showed a clear image. A man standing inches from the camera, smiling, holding my radio in his hand. During college, I worked overnight stocking shelves at a 24-hour grocery store. The store stayed open all night, but after 1 a.m., there were usually no more than a handful of customers. Most of my shift was spent in the back aisles, breaking down pallets and listening to podcasts. There was one regular who came in almost every night around 3 a.m. He never bought much. Just wandered. Sometimes he stood at the end of an aisle, staring at nothing. The first few times, I didn't think much of it. Some people are just weird. One night, I noticed he was following me. No matter which aisle I went down, he appeared at the end of it moments later. When I stopped to face him, he pretended to browse. I told my supervisor, but he said as long as the guy wasn't stealing, to ignore it. After that, the guy started speaking. He'd quietly comment on things I hadn't said out loud. He knew my schedule. Knew when my break was. Knew which aisle I worked fastest in. I started parking closer to the entrance. Started carrying my keys between my fingers. I counted the minutes until sunrise. One night, the store intercom turned on by itself. A low buzzing noise echoed through the aisles. Then a voice came through, distorted and slow, saying my name. I ran to the office. The camera feed showed the man standing in the dairy aisle, staring directly into the ceiling speaker. Smiling. Suddenly all the aisle lights shut off except mine. The shelves around me went dark. I heard footsteps running toward me. I bolted for the front of the store, tripping over boxes, heart pounding. When I reached the entrance, the automatic doors wouldn't open. I slammed my hands against the glass, screaming. Behind me, I heard him whisper, "You're always here at night." The doors finally slid open. I ran outside and didn't stop until I reached my car. The next day, management said there was no record of anyone in the store at that time. No footage. No incident log. I quit that morning. My last night shift job was as a night dispatcher for a towing company. I worked alone in a small office, answering calls and sending drivers out. The phone barely rang after midnight, and most of the time I just stared at the map screen. Around 2 a.m. I got a call from a blocked number. The caller didn't speak at first. I asked how I could help. After several seconds, a man whispered my full name. I hung up immediately. The calls continued. Every few minutes. Always silence. Sometimes breathing. Sometimes faint laughter. I unplugged the phone, but the screen kept lighting up with incoming calls anyway. I checked the security camera outside the office. A tow truck was parked directly in front of the building. Engine off. Lights off. I didn't recognize it. I called one of the drivers. He told me no one was scheduled to be there. As I watched the camera feed, the truck door slowly opened. No one stepped out. My computer chimed. A new job request appeared on the screen. Pickup location, my office address. Drop off, unknown. Notes section read, "You already answered." The office lights flickered. The phone rang again even though it was unplugged. This time I answered. The man on the line said, "You work nights because no one's watching." The security camera feed went black. I heard footsteps outside my door. Slow. Heavy. Stopping right on the other side. I locked the door and backed into the corner, holding my phone, whispering to dispatch for help. No signal. After several minutes, the footsteps faded. Sunrise came an hour later. The truck was gone. The call logs were empty. I quit without notice. I still don't answer unknown numbers. And I will never work another night shift again.